Are you fascinated by the paranormal and want to hear about encounters that have happened to real-life people in real-life places? Do you need a drink to calm those nerves after hearing some scary stories?
You're listening to Booze and Bourbon.
Well, we invite you to grab a drink, whether it's a coffee or something with a little bit more spirit in it. Grab a blanket, snuggle in, because I'm Kim and that's Jen, and we're Booze and Bourbon.
Welcome back to your favorite podcast, Booze and Bourbon.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, Kim.
Merry X-Christmas.
Merry X-Christmas indeed.
It is now the little time in between Christmas and New Year's where we think about this year and how it all went down. Yeah. So did you have a good Christmas?
I did, but my little song that I made, it didn't all come true.
Oh, what was your song?
The Mariah Carey song that we all thoroughly enjoy. I don't want a lot for Christmas. There's just one thing I need.
Mm-hmm.
A bottle of Angel's Envy and a hot boy under my tree. I got about half of that. So, I mean, if I, got the whole gift, it would have been much more enjoyable, but.
Well, that's a really beautiful song.
Yes,
I love it.
you.
And I think that Mariah Carey should, let you in, consult with you for like her All I Want for Christmas 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. So we got to go over how great 2019 has been for us. As far as podcast downloads, we have gotten over 20,000 in 2019. I know. And when it comes to Instagram friends, we have over 5,600. Facebook friends, we have almost 500. And Jen, what did we do this year?
We went on a super cool adventure that is somewhat fuzzy due to all the fun that we had, but Kentucky was definitely the highlight.
Yeah, we were invited by Four Roses to go to their distillery and have a VIP tour, which was amazing. So we asked Steve Akeley, our ABV Podcast Network owner, to come with us. And then we also got Stephanie McNew and Justine Mays from the network as well to come with us. And we had a great time. We also went to Buffalo Trace with my husband, Brian. We were invited there to go on a paranormal tour, and we got our own little private paranormal tour at the end. Yeah. We also got to go to Waverly Hills for all of our spooktacular friends out there. That was definitely an adventure.
Yes, it for sure was.
We got to go to Oak Island and go on the Salty Dog Oak Island tours with Tony. And we got to meet Jack. Well,
we did.
It wasn't the first time we met Jack, but we got to hang out with Jack again. We went on some investigations with our friend Tammy.
Yeah, a little graveyard tour action. I mean, we did a lot of local visits. So like the train station, we did a lot this year.
And it was January of 2019 when we officially joined the ABV Network.
Yeah. So almost like our big anniversary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Our big anniversary. And so we've gotten to meet so many fantastic people through this podcast. We've had some really great guests on this year. We want to keep that going. We also got to go on the Ghost Story Guys podcast, and they just happened to be our favorite paranormal podcast. So that was also really, really fun.
Yes. And we realized how different but very similar we are.
True.
We're twinning.
We're twinning.
We're twinning.
They're West Coast, and we're repping the East Coast.
Exactly.
Canadians with scary stories. Yeah. All right. Well, Jen, one of the Christmas presents I got this year was from my Santa, a.k.a. Ryan, and it's the Whistle Pig Piggyback Rye.
Yeah.
I would love for you to do a cork pop on this bad boy.
Okay. You don't have to ask me twice.
Oh,
it's not a little echo. I felt like it was going to be a little louder, though.
I did too. So let me tell you about the Piggyback. In the summer of 2018, Dave Pickrell returned to the warehouses to realize his dream of creating the best aged rye for your cocktail. Well, we're not putting it in a cocktail. We're going straight up So it's 100% rye for full spice flavors. It's aged 6 years for the unprecedented complexity and bottled at this ideal strength. So on the nose, directly from their website, they're saying we're going to get some fresh cinnamon, black peppercorn, a hint of tangerine, and grapefruit zest. Are you smelling any of those?
The tangerine and the grapefruit zest.
Definitely citrusy.
Yeah.
I don't know about the cinnamon, though.
And I, of course, every time I smell rye, get the, like, grandfather senses, because this would have been his fave.
Then on the palate, it says that it's powerfully spicy with cocoa, cardamom, and cured leather.
I don't even know how to explain that.
Okay, I'm going to take a sip.
You go for it. I mean, I'm almost getting it's like a citrus liqueur I've had before. Like it's like a creamy version of one of those orange liqueurs like that you would add into a beverage. I taste that.
I definitely taste the leathery and get a lot of spice. I love it because it's so easy to drink, but there's so much flavor there. Mm-hmm. So the finish is a long finish with, like I said, lots of spices and hints of citrus.
I think I get a little nutmeg at the end. Is that weird?
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. Because nutmeg is a baking spice. So
yeah,
there you go.
I like it. Goes down right smooth, it does.
I know. And this was recommended by Steve Akeley. So when Ryan was in Florida, he picked it up.
Well, thank you to both, Steve and Ryan.
Yeah, I love it. I just love it. Okay, so now that we have not a bourbon pocket, but a warm rye pocket.
Yeah.
By the way, I pulled out the bourbon pocket term to some people over the weekend and they loved it.
Oh, good.
Yep. So it's time for Would You Rather. Would you like me to go first?
Go for it.
Okay. Would you rather have your hair in your bourbon or bourbon in your hair?
I mean, I don't want to waste bourbon and I don't like drinking beverages with hair in it. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, bourbon could be good for my hair. Maybe it's like a hair treatment that I didn't know was possible. So, like, I'll just go with that because it's much nicer. Mm-hmm. And then I don't have to waste any. I'm going to go on a different note because I like to keep Christmas alive.
The spirit of Christmas?
Yes.
And by the way, I hope that all of our listeners had a really great Christmas.
Yeah. Ditto.
And time to reflect, guys.
And got Hot Boys and Angel's Envy under their tree.
Yeah. Exactly. You know?
All right. Would you rather get stuck kissing Freddy Krueger under the mistletoe?
Oh, wow.
Which could end like
caught?
Many ways.
Like I was having an affair with him?
No, like just like, you know, he just appears and he happens to be staying on the mistletoe and then forcefully makes you make out with him.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, there's tongue action in there.
Wee!
And we all know that his tongue's probably very rotten. So, option A, or would you rather have the most horrendous haunted snowman that just stalks you and Ryan until the snow is gone?
Oh, wow.
He does really messed up shit. He like sneaks in your house. He leaves water all over your floor. Stares in your windows.
That would be really, really annoying. And when I come home from work, it's dark. Mm-hmm. And there's not a whole lot of light because I live here on a private road. And I always like look around as fast as I can to see if I see any eyes because there's always so many deer. And it kind of freaks me out because I feel like there's eyes on me. So if there was a crazy little snowman just peeking around my yard all the time, I'd probably have to go by Depends because I'd be pooping myself on the regular.
All right.
So I'm going to have to just do the one time.
Makeout sesh.
Ugh, it wouldn't even, It would just be
like
over.
An old, moldy tongue.
It'd have to be over real quick.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for making me almost gag. Guys, if you didn't read what's on your podcast show notes yet, we're talking about haunted brothels. Stay tuned. Welcome back, guys. Now we're going to get into today's stories. All about haunted brothels. Jen, did you know that we have a local celebrity named Ellen Page?
Yes.
Yeah. Ellen Page is pretty awesome. We love her. She's from Halifax, which is our capital here in Nova Scotia. And actually, back in 2008, she was on The Letterman Show. And during the interview, she described her home here in Halifax. And she described how it's apparently haunted, which I have heard before. She also said that it's inhabited by the klepto ghosts of dead prostitutes. So apparently her home, which is somewhere in the south end of the city, I just don't know exactly where, is reported to have been an old brothel.
I mean, that would be a little entertaining at night.
I know.
A little lively in there.
Yeah. I wonder, well, she just did a documentary here, actually close to your cottage, Birchtown. Yeah. So about the drinking water and the lack of available proper drinking water and how it kind of unfortunately stems from long environmental racism. So I wonder if when she was doing that documentary, if she stayed in her haunted house in Halifax.
Probably.
And then there was this other time, it was probably around 2008, probably between 2008 and 2010. I was downtown on Argyle Street before Argyle Street was completely closed off, which is now the only street in Halifax that you can drink freely on. Kind of, it's like our little mini New Orleans, Louisiana. So when you could actually drive there, I was parked and I got in my vehicle and I went to like back up and I was looking at the rear view camera. And when I did that, I noticed that I was backing up into Ellen Page.
I know. You almost took out our local celebrity.
I know. I was like, oh my God, that was Ellen Page. And then I watched her like prance across the street. She didn't notice that I was about to run her over, so that's good. It was a controlled maneuver, I guess. Good. Yeah. Good. Anyway, so we're going to get into one of the most haunted brothels, which is actually called the Dumas Brothel in Montana. Here's a hint of ambiance to this place. The skylights are cracked. The walls are stained with water damage. The stairs are a legit construction site. Despite the way the book looks on the cover, there's much more to the story once you really look inside. The Dumas Brothel has stories to tell. Travis Eskelson, a guy who grew up Mormon in southern Idaho, never expected to be the one to tell these kind of tales, but now he's become an expert on the subject and is now the latest to try to save the Dumas from its uncertain future. He and partner Michael Peace bought the building and its artifacts for back taxes in 2012. They announced plans to restore the building and to operate some of the rooms as a hostel. Then Peace, 34, died mysteriously in January of 2018. Eskelson wrestles with how to go on without him, but recently announced that he would open the museum for summer tourists and to develop a fundraiser to tackle the facade restoration. Most of the internet says that Peace died from a heroin and meth overdose, but others on Reddit, which is, not factual, claim that Michael had been tormented and possessed by the paranormal beings of the brothel. The brothel, which was in business for 92 years, a run longer than any brothel in the country, closed in 1982. It speaks to Butte, Montana's once legendary red light district. Butte's working women, like the miners, conducted business 24/7 in 3 shifts. Each shift had 800 working girls back in 1910, according to some accounts. French brothers Arthur and Joseph Nadeau opened the brothel in 1890, and it celebrated a vanishingly rare example of Victorian brothel architecture, which apparently is an actual architectural style. In 1917, the federal government shut down the red light districts to protect World War I soldiers from venereal disease, which in Butte pushed prostitution into cave-like basement rooms where the women of the night worked in cribs. In the Dumas' basement are the bleakest of cribs. Many women took to drugs or drank to cope with their profession. Between 1895 and 1901, coroner's dockets record the deaths of a great number of prostitutes in Butte. Suicide was also common. Even if the family of the dead could not be found, they often refused to claim the body. Different levels of the brothel catered to different classes of customers, with the most grim conditions in the basement level, which connected with Butte's actual underground system. In 1942, with another war going on, the federal government shut down houses of ill repute. What that meant for the Dumas was that the passages connecting it with the rest of Butte's underground were closed. The cribs in the basement were sealed and remained time capsules of misery. The Dumas brothel became known as the Dumas Hotel, but still doing business as per usual, its operation was otherwise unchanged. The last madam of the Dumas was Ruby Garrett, aka Lee Aragoni. She was convicted of evading federal taxes on the illicit income from the brothel and sentenced to 6 months in prison and fined $10,000. Services were going for about $20 when the Dumas closed in 1982 after her conviction. Listen, if I was a lady of the night, I would be charging a lot more for my services than $20. And that was just in 1982. I mean,
yeah. Ladies were really cutting themselves short there.
I know. So she actually let the brothel go, selling the building to a man named Rudy Geisick, who spent 22 years trying to restore the brothel. He created a museum and raised money for the building, which is on the National Register of Historic Places. Garrett died in 2002 at the age of 94, and Geisick followed in 2016. As his health declined, the demands of the building overwhelmed him. The leaking roof damaged walls, ceilings, plaster, and the very structure of the building. He had to close it as a tourist attraction, though a former Dumas patron put up $25,000 to replace the roof and to save the brothel from the certain destruction. That's when the current owner and former owner stepped in. Since the purchase of the brothel, it has been a curious location for those of us interested in the paranormal, and it has even been featured on TV's Ghost Adventures. Now we're going to get into the hauntings. While the upper floors of the hotel tell a tale of gentlemen, money, and elegant decor, the basement where the cribs are paint such a different picture. A story of hardship, unease, and struggle in the dim lighting. At the back of the Dumas, there is a padlocked door leading to a private passageway that once led to the brick-paved street known as Pleasant Alley, then known as Venus Alley, and then finally known as my favorite, Piss Alley. Along this alley were hundreds of one-room basement cribs. Miners would flock to the alley looking for a good time. This alley was a violent place, seeing crimes in the building of shootings, stabbings, beatings, robbery, and more. The basement of the Dumas was part of the Burnt District and stands today as the only reminder of the activity that once defined this area. While working girls struggled to make ends meet in the basement, a number of madames occupied the front apartment on the second floor, running what was considered to be the higher class establishment. From 1950 to 1955, Eleanor Knott served as the madam of the Dumas. As the tale goes, Eleanor planned to leave the brothel with her then lover on a cold night in February of 1955. She had her suitcase packed, but her lover never showed. The next morning, Benita Farron sent for a doctor after finding Eleanor's body. Her death was ruled to be due to natural causes, yet there were whispers of a possible suicide or murder. Eleanor Knott, during her heyday, was wealthy from working hard in her line of business, but one day she decided to start fresh. So she had arranged to run away and marry her lover, who was actually a successful Butte businessman who also just happened to be married. On the night that she was to leave, she waited patiently with her suitcase for her lover to come and arrive and sweep her away. But like I said, he just never showed. So she was actually found in room 20 and reportedly had taken an overdose of sleeping pills and washed them down with, you know what?
Whiskey.
That's right. She left an array of expensive gold and diamond jewelry, her red Cadillac convertible, and a brand new Harley-Davidson motorcycle. Another madame, a woman by the name of Benita, was said to have taken these items. One version of the story states that it wasn't a suicide, but it was a murder, so that Benita could get her hands on Eleanor's possessions. After Eleanor's death, many working girls at the Dumas claim that they've seen her ghost. She was most often seen carrying a suitcase through the halls. So I have this picture here, which we'll show on social media, but this is a picture of, it was taken by a visitor named Stephanie Rowland, and it turns out that there's a woman's face in the background of the photo, but there were no other people in this room other than this man that you see at the time that the photo was taken.
And it's super clear. Like, that's not even just like a fuzzy picture. That's a clear face in the background.
Yeah, she's looking, and it doesn't look like there's any mirrors or anything like that. It just looks straight up.
Mm-hmm.
She's just looking over her shoulder.
Yep.
So one young workman that was helping with the restoration described, as he worked one day, he felt a very warm hand pressed against his back. This feeling lingered for several moments, and then he felt a warm breath on the back of his neck. He was the only person in the building at the time. Various visitors have reported seeing a spectral woman with, you guessed it, a suitcase in the Dumas. An employee during the 1970s reported that she had been in the building alone one evening and saw a woman carrying a suitcase. She saw the apparition walk past the door of the upstairs bathroom and descended down the stairs. Upon further inspection, there was no one else in the building and no one would have been able to make an exit in such a short period of time. Several years ago, an artist visited the brothel, saying that staying in the second floor apartment where the lighting would be ideal for painting. Each time she sat down for work, she felt compelled to paint the face of a woman that she had never met. It legit haunted her. After multiple canvases had gone in the trash, she gave up, leaving the room to paint elsewhere. The owner of the building rescued one of the portraits of the 40-ish-year-old woman, and she was wearing a hat and a coy smile. And this painting has now been put on display, so I wonder if it is, in fact, Eleanor. Ellen or not.
She had a rough go.
Yeah, I know.
But I mean, I guess in that scenario, you probably would want to just continue haunting the place and...
True.
You know? All right, moving on to the Birdcage Theater in Arizona. The Birdcage Theater on Allen Street in Tombstone, Arizona is an icon of America's Wild Wild West. The New York Times once called the former gambling hall, saloon, and brothel the roughest, baddest, and most wicked night spot between Basin Street and the Barbary Coast. The walls are riddled with over 140 bullet holes, and at least 26 people lost their lives here in gun or knife fights. Today, the venue of ill repute holds the distinction of being Tombstone's most haunted building. Tombstone found its beginnings back in 1877, when a prospector named Ed Sheffelin hit silver. As news of his fortune spread, it seemed the town popped up overnight as eager miners flocked to the region hoping to strike it rich. In addition to the general store, saloons, hotels, and brothels were added to Tombstone's main street as quickly as men could build them. At its height, the lawless Tombstone was home to over 3,500 licensed prostitutes. In December of 1881, the Birdcage Theater opened its doors and stayed open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The Opera House and Saloon was home to some of the most expensive prostitutes and high-stakes gambling in the region. It was where the luckiest miners went to squander their newfound riches. Downstairs housed the private poker room, where the minimum buy-in was $1,000. Although the players changed, the game ran continuously for 8 years, 5 months and 3 days. Some famous names dealt in were businessmen Adolph Busch, George Randolph Hearst, and notorious outlaws Diamond Jim Brady and Doc Holliday.
That's pretty cool. $1,000 buy-in back in 1881.
I know, I was just going to say, I'm like, damn, those other prostitutes should have really upped their price.
They didn't know what they were doing back there in Montana.
Damn. So leading to a brutal murder, Tombstone, Arizona has fascinated people for years. It's the town too tough to die. Gunslinger legends gambled, drank, died, and haunt its dusty streets. It's where Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday fought the Clanton-McClurry gang near the OK Corral, a story that's captured in movies like Wyatt Earp and Tombstone. While this shootout might be one of history's most famous, it is in no way Tombstone's most gruesome event. The bar room of the Birdcage was the site of the Tombstone's most grisly murder. A high-stakes gambler named Billy Milgreen was entertaining the affections of two Tombstone prostitutes, Margarita and Gold Dollar.
Those would be our names.
Yep. Gold Dollar was his regular, and when she discovered Billy flirting with Margarita, she attacked with a double-edged stiletto knife. Gold Dollar stabbed Margarita repeatedly in the chest. As the marshal approached the Birdcage, Gold Dollar fled the scene. When she was apprehended, the murder weapon was missing and no charges were filed. A century later, the stiletto was found behind the theater and is now on display inside.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
For some paranormal activity, visitors and employees of the Birdcage Theater have reported seeing the spirits of former prostitutes and men in cowboy hats. Some claim to have been touched and pushed by unseen forces. At night, the sounds of laughter, yelling, and music have been heard, as though the parties of the Old West were still raging. Many have claimed to see the visage of a man in black wearing a visor pacing across the stage. Ghost tours are available daily at the Birdcage Theater and the town of Tombstone.
That's really cool. I kind of want to go there because I feel like there'd be lots of ghostly adventures there. It's like a ghost town.
Yeah.
I want to go.
I mean, at least like the kind of haunting you get at night would be more like entertaining yelling and screaming. All right, moving on to the Moonlight Bunny Ranch in Nevada. Sounds like a also fun place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Cat house or haunted house? The sign only warns visitors of one. Behind the doors of the Bunny Ranch, the working girls tell tales that have attracted the attention of paranormal experts and ghost hunters, not just lonely guys hunting for a good time. The stories are told by several prostitutes. Publicity stunt or not, they are convinced something strange is going on at the Bunny Ranch. The Sci-Fi Channel's Proof Positive, Evidence of the Paranormal, aired an episode featuring Nevada's notorious house of ill repute. In this episode, the women testified and owner Dennis Hoff aired his skepticism about the haunted brothel. Hoff, a big man clad in a black outfit stitched with his brothel's logo, sat at the bar clutching Christy, an international playgirl, dressed in a black satin robe and pink and black bustier. Sounds like my kind of outfit. Hoff said the story started around 1975 when a girl who roomed in 13A died a terrible death. Other working girls have heard voices when they stayed in 13A. The lights flicker, the air conditioning doesn't work right. It's either too hot in the room or too cold. He said the TV show brought in paranormal testing equipment and a lie detector test, which Hoff said he passed. I don't believe Elvis is coming back, he said. I don't believe in the Loch Ness Monster. I don't know about this. I don't know if it's old hookers' tales. Christie's tale involves a ghost dressed in a long black coat who glided up to her bed and stared down at her. He disappeared right there in front of me, she said, nodding her blonde head. He wasn't angry or anything. It was weird. Most of the women just go by one name here, or a moniker, like Air Force Amy. I like that name. She said she got this nickname because she is a highly decorated Air Force veteran. At first, I didn't believe it at all, said Amy, who has worked at the brothel for 4 years. And management doesn't encourage these stories because it scares the girls. She said the ghost would move things around the room while she was with clients. It swiped her special shade of lipstick several times. Max, sitting in room 13A on a black faux fur bedspread, said she believes the Bunny Ranch has a male and female ghost. The female ghost is kind and often stops by just to say hey. The male isn't as friendly. I've seen the door open and close. When it closes, I've seen an energy there, she said. And it looked like the alien and predator. That's not cool. Max shook her hands in the air to demonstrate the blur. He's male and he's not friendly. The Bunny Ranch's smoky, rainbow-lit parlor is bustling, even though it's a Thursday afternoon. A television reporter and a cameraman are leaving. They've just completed similar interviews with the brothel workers. The publicity manager for the Sci-Fi Channel said of the 3 stories told on Wednesday night's Proof Positive, the Mexican Vacation UFO tested positive, not the haunted brothel. Though the investigation could find proof that would deem the brothel haunted, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not, Adrian D'Amato said. Maybe this story really proves one thing. The media are always attracted to abnormal stories originating from a brothel. Could also be very true.
It could, definitely. Absolutely. 100%.
Just makes for a good story, really.
I mean, I like haunted brothel ideas.
You like prostitute ghosts as well?
Sure. I mean, I feel like they could really tell an amazing story.
Yeah. And I mean, again, like sometimes, it could be entertaining. Mm-hmm. I mean, some of them obviously would probably have a little bit of anger in there and would want to take it out on somebody. But for the most part,
I know.
They're probably just mad that they didn't up their prices, really. I mean, let's be honest.
Maybe there's something to be said about drinking whiskey, though, too. It seems like these prostitutes drank whiskey. And maybe whiskey is the elixir that allows you to pass over into the ghostly realm.
You could be really onto something here.
Yeah, well, you can guarantee that you and I are going to be ghosts then. Oh,
yeah,
gosh.
And I can't wait to haunt the shit out of you, let me tell you.
Exactly, yeah. I was actually talking about this week. Tony was saying that if I died in a car accident, he would be calling you because he would want to get in touch with me somehow and knows that you would be able to figure out the way.
Oh, God, yeah.
I already know all the things that I won't do because your ghost in your house already does them. So I'd have to come up with a new tactic.
Some new stuff.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. So now we're going to get into our Patreon shout outs. I first want to make a little shout out to the Bourbon and Rye Club because they did this awesome Christmas spectacular and had asked me to do a video for them to add into that. And there were just so many bourbon greats in there. So it was really awesome to be a part of that. So shout out to the Bourbon and Rye Club. And they are in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I'm trying to get you to come, but we're going in the spring. So we will meet him if we do. So our patron shout outs are Aaron, the Ghost Story Guys, the ABV Network, Stephanie McNew, Rebecca Bolton, Cindy Bussey, Aaron Hamilton, and Andy. So guys, thank you so much for your unwavering support. We really hope that you enjoy the videos that we post every week for Friday. Typically, it's done on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night. So if you want to see those videos, you just need to head over to patreon.com/booze and bourbon. And there are 2 tiers. One's at $5 a month and one's at $10 a month. And it tells you all the details of what you get for each tier. The first tier is known as the Spirits tier, and the second tier is known as the Sasquatch tier. So Jen, did you get something Sasquatch related for Christmas?
I certainly did. My dear friend Kim here made me a shirt.
Yeah.
It's a nice blue shirt, and it has a little patch on it that says "Believe" with a little picture of a Sasquatch.
That's who you were waiting for under the tree. That's your hot man
that was
underneath
the hot
tree.
guy. Yeah. He's a little hairy, but I mean, he's super tall and kind of jacked. So
and he knows his way around the woods.
Man, yeah, he does. He's a great piggybacker too, which goes with what we drank today. So
absolutely. Yeah. So Jen, if people want to find us on social media, where can they find us?
Well, we are Insta famous, so Booze and Bourbon on Instagram. You can also find us on Facebook, Booze and Bourbon the podcast, and of course, listen to us on any podcast provider. Mm-hmm. So iTunes, Stitcher. Mm-hmm. We're on
YouTube.
Yeah.
We're on Google Play.
Spotify.
We are on a bunch of things. So if you just Google us, you will find...
Pops up.
Yeah. Booze and Bourbon, BOOS.
And probably some incriminating photos if you put in our names, but hopefully just don't do that.
Oh, my Lord, no. Definitely not. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much all for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. We hope that you enjoyed the recap of 2019. And I did forget to say, we were on some other podcasts as well. We were on From the Shadows podcast, and we are also on Rival and Queen, which is a local other podcast. So if you guys are feeling so inclined, go check those ones out. Rival and Queen is... pretty darn awesome. They don't have anything to do with paranormal or bourbon. They have everything to do with real life, cool people in Nova Scotia. And they're 2 amazing ladies.
They are.
And From the Shadows is a paranormal podcast, so you should probably
check that out too.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. We will see you next week. Bye.
Thanks,
Booze and Bourbon is part of the ABV Network. For more information or to advertise on the show, please head over to abvnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, and cheers.
This has been a Steve Akeley production.